And this was not the one. I lied.
Hey, man. Oh my god, I landed that, dude.
My name is Ronald Varela Souza, aka COSTA, and this is my story. I remember the first time I started skateboarding, I was about 14 years old, and I remember getting my first skateboard ever. It was a zero board. It was a green zero board. I had no idea what I was doing, and I had no idea what to buy, and I just thought the coolest board there was zero because I saw it on the internet and stuff like that. So the first board I got was black and green. It was I thought my friends were gonna think it was cool. My friends hated it, but whatever, you know. So after getting that green skateboard, I started to really practice riding around the neighborhood, trying to get used to the skateboard. Because previously I had a Walmart skateboard, and it was not good. And so the zero board really helped me, even though it was like really like just crappy kind of trucks on it, and like just it was good enough to learn, you know, if you're a beginner, you know. But yeah, you know, I started learning, I started to push better. And I remember those days, my God, my legs hurt so much pushing every day. Because every day after school, I would push every single day. I would really train myself every single day. And, you know, at one point I got super good. I got used to the board. And that's when I said, okay, now it's time for tricks. So the ollie was the next thing. That trick took so long for me to accomplish. I remember the hardest thing was popping the board, popping it as hard as I can, and at the same time sliding your foot, you know. That pop took me so long. I remember, oh my God, I remember so many nights and so many days. I was like, you know, I'm never gonna get this trick in. Like, I'm never gonna get this landed. I'm never gonna get it. And you know, finally, one day I actually landed an ollie, and I couldn't believe it. You know, my world exploded after that. You know, and afterwards, that trick ollie it started to become more and more easy for me. You know, afterwards I wanted to start pushing. You know, pushing a little bit forward on more advanced tricks, and that's where things got serious. Around 16 years old is when I started to become more and more into skateboarding. And I remember one day, me and my friend, we had this by this two by four, I believe, 2x4 table, like a nightstand. We decided to grind it, you know, for the first time. And first of all, that was way too high. It was like it was like this high, you know. We were very confident in our ollies and everything. But I remember at one point there was another piece of wood there, and we started we started grinding that piece of wood because it was like about like that much. It was like about like 4 or 5 inches, like that much to the ground. And I decided, you know what? We can actually 50-50 grind this. And then once we 50-50 grinded it, then that's when I said to my friend, like, you know what? I think we can, if we're ollieing 50-50 onto this, I think we can jump on the nightstand. And so we started to jump on that nightstand. And I remember putting wax for the first time on that ledge of the nightstand. And let me remind you, this was the first ever board slide grind I've ever done. And when I remember there were so many times where I had to keep doing it and keep doing it, you know. And then finally one time, somehow I went up to this nightstand and finally I ollied on top of it. I remember looking at the object and finally my foot and my body, everything just balanced by itself, you know. And then when I came off of that, I was like, oh my God, I just did my first grind there. And I was just like, my God, I was like, dude, imagine like if this can go further now that I can board slide like ledges and stuff. And then after a while, when I started to go to, you know, other skate parks, I started to grind the boxes, board slide them. I started to get used to the rails that were on the ground, that they were, you know, board sliding started to get really easy for me. And around 16 going into 17, everything stopped. It was around 17 years old where high school wasn't working out for me. So after a while, you know, my parents were like, hey, let's go to work. You know, like you have to work, you know, if you're not going to school anymore. And, you know, I decided, you know what, I'm going to make some cash on the side and, you know, I'm going to continue skateboarding. And, you know, unfortunately that didn't happen. You know, I was very much caught up with adulthood, and you know I had to pay a lot of, you know, things, and I didn't have enough time for skateboarding. And the job that I had was very it took a lot of energy from me. And then after, you know, after work, you just don't want to skateboard because you're so tired, you know. So around 17 years old, you know, like skateboarding very much left me, like completely. You know, it was here and there where I would skateboard, you know, but it wasn't that extreme. You know, it was like it really got cut off around 17. And like it's sad to think back, you know, because it's like there's so many years that have gone by. And I feel like sometimes I think like, I wonder if I didn't go into work, like I want to know like how pro I would have been by this time, you know. But I stopped, you know. And that really affected my body. That really affected my tricks. That really affected how I ride the board, you know. And because like you know, you don't work out your muscle's gonna forget, you know, muscle memory. And so, you know, everything just completely stopped. So 9 years flew by, almost a decade. And today I skateboard just like I did when I was 17. You know, I'm 25 years old now, and I'm going back into it because I feel like a part of my childhood was kind of like abandoned in a way. I didn't continue, you know. And so today I'm taking skateboarding to the extreme, you know. I'm taking back those days, you know. And I think everyone should do that with whatever they're trying to do in their childhood, you know, whatever they're trying to accomplish. You know, it's never too late, you know. It's never too late to try to get back into something that you love to do. You know, that was, you love to do it because it had this escape, this freedom to it, you know. Anything, you know, it doesn't even have to be about skateboarding, you know. It can be about BMXing, you know. It can be about scootering, it can be biking, you know. Anything, you know. Just get back into it. And you know, that's what I'm gonna do today, you know. And you don't know, like, you don't know where these things can take you. you know, it's never too late, you know? You know, I do gotta say, you know, my legs and my body, they hurt over these 9 years that have passed, you know, because the job I was doing was very abusive on the body. And, you know, even through this pain, I'm still gonna push my limits. I'm gonna push. I'm gonna push. And you never know how much that extra push can take you, you know. You know, it's painful. Painful to get back into something, especially after many years. But you'll get there eventually.